It's grind time! Hi guys, welcome back to another video. This video is going to be a little different. Doing something a little bit different this time. It's going to be a video about 3 characters that are not currently in the game that I think should be in the game, and coming up with new abilities and uses for them that would make them a little unique compared to the bots we have, and why I think that'd be a good idea. But first, I got to make a comment about this week's event. This was the Alliance Raid event. And I got to say, I'm not a huge fan of raids anyway, but this event this weekend especially disappointed me because, well, my alliance, and I'm in one of the top alliances, but my alliance was done the first half day. Literally, I was able to get in a couple of attacks before it was over, but that was it. Several of the members didn't get to do a single attack as far as the raid goes before it was over. Which, yeah, I mean, we can still go in here and go to the get fuel cells or raid cells or whatever, and you can still raid and you can still get the triple XP and level your bots. But a really boring weekend, boring event. Not a fan. On the flip side of that, my kids are in a lower alliance because they're, free to play. Obviously, newer players, HQs, anywhere from 8 to 10. I don't think any of them are above a 10 yet, maybe an 11. And they're struggling. Like my son's account is on a device that has to stay with me or stay here at the house, and he's gone this weekend. And so I've been playing for him, trying to keep him active. And anytime you raid, I think most people know there are certain bots you take with you. If you have Perceptor tracks, those kind of bots, you take those with you. And his Perceptor is only a 2-star. He has a low-level 3-star tracks. And literally, whenever I go to raid for him, some of his bots are being killed on the launch pad as they're running out. I mean, they're not even making it to the battle. I think if Space Ape continues to make these Alliance raid events a thing, I think it's an easy fix, but they have to come up with a way to tier it based on the Alliance strength. I don't know if that means that they lock the alliances whenever the event starts so that other players can't transfer in to help or whatever. But something needs to happen if they want to continue having these, because my kids are getting frustrated. It kind of takes some of the fun out whenever they have to spend, all their 50 fuel cells raiding to get the raid fuel cells, but then they have to wait for their bots to cool down and all this stuff before they can go into the raids. Then they got to wait for them to, and they don't do very well in the raids, and then they got to wait for all their bots to cool down again before they can go back and get more fuel cells. And it's a pretty tedious, not a very enjoyable event. Now, obviously, your mileage may vary. You may feel the exact opposite, and that's fine. Just for me and mine, I'm not a big fan of this event. And I hope if Space Ape, like I said, if they continue to want to make these, I hope they can come up with a way to kind of tier the event based on the Alliance's strength. All right, rant over. That being said, I've got 3 characters chosen that are not currently in the game that I feel like should be in the game, and I have my reasons why, and some of their abilities and uses that I think could be interesting and new and unique in the game. So let's switch over and let's take a look. I've looked up some images of these characters so that I'm sure everyone knows who they are, but just to kind of help reinforce it, let's jump over there and take a look at these guys and go over it, and then we can share our thoughts and feelings on them. First up is Omega Supreme. This is Omega Supreme from the G1 cartoon. Everyone knows Omega Supreme and where he came from, I think. In his original G1 continuity, the first appearance, I believe, we find out that he used to be one of many Guardian bots on Cybertron. So what I'm thinking is One of the big things about bringing him in was, who's the Decepticon counterpart for him. I think that's easy. I think they make the Constructicons have found and reprogrammed another Guardian bot, exactly the same as Omega Supreme. So Omega Supreme can basically each side can get an Omega Supreme, and that kind of cancels out the who's his Decepticon counterpart. Now, as far as his uses go, on offense, I think you can choose to take Omega Supreme instead of a Combiner, maybe. And obviously, you would just get a use out of his robot mode then. And then on defense, on your base, I think if you have him on there, then he's a couple possibilities. One, he's just in a base mode, and that little tank that rides around the track. He fires at the team attacking him, and maybe the rocket launches at him or something. They could even go so far as to, if you destroy that little base, he transforms into robot mode, and then you have to defeat the robot mode as well. I'm not really sure on that, and I also have suspicion that Space Ape already has plans for Omega Supreme. So I think that any of this that I'm coming up with is really just a moot point. I think that they've already got plans and ideas, and I think that's he's going to be coming sometime. But these are just some possibilities I'm throwing out there. Like I said, the biggest argument I've heard is who would his counterpart be from the Decepticons. I think that's easily solved by just making it in the storyline that the Constructicons have fixed, repaired, reprogrammed another Guardian bot, and Omega Supreme is no longer alone as the last Guardian bot or whatever. However, the only other one that's around is now working for the bad guys. So that's my solution for Omega Supreme. So now let's move on to the next one. Retgar and a Junkion. Now this is one that I really like the idea of. So again, I'm an 80s baby. I grew up with Transformers as a kid. The original animated movie is still the best to me. So looking at Retgar and the Junkions from that movie, when they were first introduced, in that first fight scene with Ultra Magnus and Springer and all of them, or not Ultra Magnus, he'd already been blown up, but you know what I'm talking about. Anyways, the way that they, one would transform into a motorcycle, the other one would ride him, and then when they knocked him down, they would switch. They'd get back up, and the one that was a motorcycle would transform into a bot. The one that was a bot would transform into a motorcycle, and then they would go again. And the comment was made by Springer, I think it was, knocking him down, it's not hard, it's getting him to stay down, that's the trick. Well, that's what we would incorporate into this bot. So whenever you launched, or whenever you chose Retgar, you would actually have Retgar and a Junkion. And so one would be a motorcycle, one would be a robot. My idea for them is that they would have on their stats, it would be kind of a low health, but the first time they get destroyed during in the attack, then it's like the Vector Prime type thing where they kind of go back. The animation is that they switch. The one that was a motorcycle becomes the bot. The one that was the bot becomes a motorcycle, and they go again, and they've got 75% of the health. And that happens, and when they get destroyed again, it pops back, and they go again with 50% health. And then they get destroyed, and they pop back, and they go in with 25% health. So you get 3 or 4 lives or Vector Prime type effects out of them. But each time their health gets lower and lower and lower, so that's not totally impossible or OP to, whenever they get used. But I think it would be a really cool, really unique kind of style of bot to have in there. So probably a special class. Now, as far as who's the con counterpart, that's the only fault maybe to this one is you just have to have another pair of Junkions going. I think it's the only thing that would make sense because of the ability being so oriented towards them and their animated movie origin. And they did look kind of evil. I mean, if you look at them in that movie, they had the red eyes and the Fu Manchus and all that stuff. I mean, you could easily think that they were unfriendly bots just as easily as the partners they became. So kind of like the Sharkticons, kind of like Impactor, I think that they go both ways. And but I think that ability, that kind of use would be something very, very cool and unique in the game. And that's why I like the idea of bringing Retgar and a junkie on into the game. Blur and the sweep. Now this is one that I really like the idea of. So first, let me explain the ability idea that I have for it, and then why I chose sweep to also be with Blur. I was sticking with the G1 movie theme. And with Blur, I think he's a classic character, needs to be in there. Obviously, Blur's thing is the speed. So I was thinking kind of like the Flash, right? Like his ability would be something called Speedster, something or another. And anyway, once you activated it, he transforms into his futuristic car looking thing and takes off and hits only defenses. And when he hits them, it's a combination of a stun and damage, kind of like Silverbolt. Obviously not quite as high maybe because he's going to be hitting several of them. Maybe as you level him up, the stun time and the damage increase or whatever. But he just bounces from defense to defense, hitting, stunning so fast that he can't be hit by other defenses or something like that. And then I was trying to think of who to pair him with. And I thought, well, all the main Decepticons from the movie are really already in the game. But then I thought of that scene on the Junk World where Galvatron has the sweep annihilate Ultra Magnus. And I thought that would be kind of a cool thing if we had, since we've already got Scourge, the bot could look almost exactly like Scourge, just maybe color differences or something. So that would save them some modeling time. But whenever you activate their ability, whereas Blur goes so fast that he's hitting all the defenses and stuff like that, whenever you activate the sweep ability, they would maybe like 2 or 3 of them appear from the one, and they go hit the defenses and do the same kind of damage, stun damage, all that kind of stuff that Blur does. And they can't be hit by the defense. Obviously it'd be the same thing as Blur. It would just be different animation, different look for it. And I think that would be a neat feature to bring into the game, and that way it brings us Blur, who's a character I think is long overdue to be in, and also adds in the sweep, which is something that was the characters that were introduced in the movie, and then they played a large role in season 3 of the classic cartoon. So that's my idea for Blur and the sweep. And there you have it. That's my idea for some new bots to bring into the game, classic characters that I think are due to be brought in. What are your thoughts and opinions? Do you like the idea? Do you hate the ideas? What would you change about it? Think it'll ever happen? Let me know in the comments. Feel free to throw in any of your ideas that you might have as well. I think especially the Retgar and the Blur ideas I had bring a very unique set of abilities into the game, something we don't really see yet. At Blur kind of we see because of Silverbolt kind of has that stun and damage ability. This would just be bringing it in a different way. Retgar I think would be something well, I guess you can compare his to the Vector Prime Core, but something new as far as the animation of having the 2 bots in one and changing positions and all that kind of stuff. I think that would be really cool to see. And just for the record, I actually had that idea before Vector Prime came out, so it wasn't just totally copying off of Vector Prime. That was an idea I had, obviously based off the movie in that line. So thanks for watching, guys. Please like and subscribe. Please feel free to share with your friends and your alliances if you like what I do. And I appreciate you guys watching my channel and supporting me. And until next time, till all are one.